Hello, good evening,
Hello.
everyone. Welcome to Pen Connect with Women Authors. As a part of International Women's Month, we celebrate, recognize, and honor women's achievements, their resilience, and contribution to the society every year. This year, Romania, in collaboration with Penmancy, brings to you an exclusive series of curated conversations with women authors. Today's discussion is on women's voices in poetry, literature, feminism, realism, and more. And I am very happy to introduce you to the panel today. First up is Dr. Tripti Sharan, who is a gynecologist and director of obstetrics and gynae at BLK MAX Hospital in New Delhi. She's an academician with numerous publications and awards and is a prolific author. I'm so sorry for the fumble. Her works include women-centric books, The Chronicles of a Gynecologist, House of Doctors, mythology-inspired novels like Devis and Divas, being Radha, Raasleela, and poetry, Shadows of a Fading Twilight, Dewdrops, an award-winning anthology. Her poem Water won recognition for its powerful message on dialysis patients. A columnist for Every Life Counts, The Better India, and Different Truths, she is also a speaker advocating for women's and doctors' issues. Welcome, Dr. Tripti Sharan.
Thank you so much, Kajal, for your kind words. It's a pleasure to be here and sharing platform with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next on the panel is Anita Sharma, who is an educator with roots in Himachal Pradesh. She comes from a family with a strong military background. She is also a qualified tarot reader, Reiki healer, and a published author featured in various national and international poetry anthologies. Her work has appeared in Kitab International, Indian periodicals, Visual Verse, the Aleph Review, and Setu. She conducts training workshops for educators and runs a bilingual poetry channel on YouTube. Her recent books include The Dalhousie Murders, November 24, Romania, and Cantonment Chronicles, February 25, Sabre and Quill. Welcome, Anita.
Thank you, Kajal. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. And moving on, the next panelist is Amrita Mukherjee. She is an author and journalist with a rich background in media. Her latest book, The Secret Diary of a Criminal Lawyer, is based on 10 real-life cases from the life of the late Ashok Mukherjee. Her debut novel, Exit Interview, follows a woman journalist, and she later released Museum of Memories, a collection of 13 short stories. Amrita has worked with the Times of India, the Hindustan Times, and the Asian Age, and was the features editor at ITP Publishing, Dubai. Now an independent journalist, she writes for international publications. And her blog, amritaspeaks.in, focuses on women and human interest stories. Welcome once again, Amrita.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kajal.
And in conversation with the panelists, we have Khushbu Shah, who is a storyteller and eye surgeon who blends dry humor and introspection into her prose and poetry. She writes stories with unusual settings, blending genres, whimsical characters, and unexpected endings. A finalist for the Asian Prize 2024 and winner of Penmancy Pitch Fest Season 2, she also received the Wordsmith 2022 award by Beyond the Box. Her debut novel, The Mildly Chaotic World of 𝗔𝗕𝗎𝗓, a dystopian satire on animal cruelty, was released in November 24. Her novella, The Fairly Ordinary Princess, has received rave reviews. She is also a spoken word artist and a winner at IFP Festival Season 14, Mumbai. Welcome, Khushbu. And over to you. Please carry on with this conversation, and I'll meet you at the other end.
Yes. Thank you so much, Kajal. So here we are with the first session of a long list of curated sessions where we speak with all very extremely talented and powerful women authors on the occasion of International Women's Day. Let me start this session with these 4 lines by Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. So let's start with these 4 words. I have a long list of questions, and the panelists today are from varied and very diverse fields. So what I intend to do, and we have a very enthusiastic audience as well. So what I intend to do is we will start with our questions. We will take each of you in turns, and in between, if there is any audience question, we can take that as well. Let us first start with the classics. Since our topic today is women voices in poetry and literature, realism, feminism, and more. Let me start with the classics and then go to contemporary literature and poetry. So there are many classic works of literature and poetry who have depicted women's struggles. There are also a lot of them who have hushed them, but there are a lot of them who have depicted these struggles and the resilience of women and the aspirations of women. So this is a question to all of you. Which literary work, whether it's poetry or whether it's fiction, or whether it's non-fiction, is one which widened your perspective on feminism and realism and which shaped your writing? We can start with Tripti first.
Thank you so much, 𝗧𝗿𝗄, for that question. When I look back, I'm not a student of literature, so I may not be that well read in, classic literature and all. But the first book I would say which affected me greatly, and I'm the kind of person who would not really look into the books which were on feminism, but on otherwise, and look at the women character, if you know what I mean. Like I remember when I was 10-year-old, we had Ramayana in our text. I remember reading the book on first go, and I was reading through the chapters, and when I finished the book, I cried a lot. I cried like anything, and for a 10-year-old, you know what affected me? It was not the sacrifices that God Ram had to, or the hardship that he had to go. I cried for Sita. And the worst thing that affected me was that, I read that when she got married to Ram, her father, Janak, he does a Kanyadan, right? And he gives a lot of things, and then Sita goes away, and that is it. After that, there was no mention of her father or her side of family. And then a small girl, I would think, at that age, your life is all about your parents, isn't it, when you're 10-year-old? And I would see that she underwent so much thing. Why did her father not come back? I mean, she was abandoned so many times. But then she, there was nobody who came back to help her. So was her life totally dependent on this man, one man only? Why did nobody stand for her? And for me, the abandonment started when she was married. And trust me, I hated the word marriage. I thought this was it, and you have to cut off all ties with your parents and family, and they will never look after you. So, and after that, it became a habit. I would kind of read a lot of books on mythology genre. I would go through our epics, and every time I would go on the female characters and think about them. And I'm so happy now that we have so many books which are through their lenses, We have books on Draupadi, we have books of Sita, and all these books which are very much, they talk about the women. So rather than having, striking books on feminism, I look at these books which are normal books, serials, books, movies, and those characters, which are so many things which are left unsaid, they strike me the most.
Oh, that is
recent. The only book on feminism which I have read is that of Volga, and I really love that. And this was after I had written, Devis and Divas, which was my last book. And it was of 4 women, Sita, Parvati, and Radha and Ahilya. And they're modern women. Like Sita is the wife of an army officer who's taken hostage. Ahilya is a doctor. So, she's a rape victim, and how we do victim shaming in our country. Parvati is a woman whose husband is a philosopher, an extraordinary husband. And how is it, being married to such a person? Radha is a person who was in a relationship with a man who had a greater purpose in life. So she is left in between. So somewhere along the time, I think my seeds of this came back from that time. When I used to read these books, when we would have discussions at home, and somehow or the other, I was always talking about that woman. Even Mahabharata is full of women who I, as a 21st century woman, I question. I don't know what is right, what is wrong. Dharmas also changes with time. What was right then doesn't seem right now. So yes, my training into that came from my formative years reading my books, these epic books.
That is such a unique perspective. Shalini Malik says that is such a unique perspective on Sita's life. So
Yes.
let's go to Amrita.
Hi. As Tripti said, you were talking about Sita and how Sita's life is still relevant today. You were saying that uh, you get married and the parents never find out about you. That is a question that comes to us all the time. But I was reading this book by Monica Gupta. It's a daughter of Luharu. It was released, maybe published 2-3 years back. It's about this girl, our modern day Sita, maybe born in 1930. She got married when she was 8 years old, and her father was the richest man in that area. It's a place called Luharu, and its book goes on into partition and all that struggle, India's struggle for freedom. But she gets married at the age of 8, and then her father, who is so well off, everything, but then he never comes back to find out about her, and she grows up in her sasural, being tortured by the mother-in-law, but then she finds her own space. She fights it, but uh, as we say that we always try to this book is probably, we cannot say it's a complete feminist book per se, but women's struggles, women's stories are are being told from the very beginning. Like if we look at I was I was thinking of doing this session, I was thinking that if you look at the Arabian Nights, uh,
Yes,
it's stories told by a woman, right? Sherazadi,
yes,
who didn't
yes,
want
yes.
to be killed, and she found a way out and told those 1001 stories. And it might not be, all the stories might not have a feminist perspective, but it's the female point of view, and it's also a woman who's found a way out. Would we say that Arabian Nights is a feminist book? It is not, but I find this perspective very interesting, that a woman has told the stories of one of the most famous books in history, right?
That
And
is true.
pardon?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay,
Right.
that's the thing. And when we are talking about feminist literature, we instantly think of Simone de Beauvoir and her book, and these are the ones that have come up that we keep talking about it. But the very interesting thing is, um, Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein, one of the most hideous horror characters, which is not nothing to do with feminism, nothing to do with anything related to it, was written by a woman who saw life, saw horror from a very different perspective. And in the process of writing the book, she was helped by her husband, Percy Bysshe Shelley, who was the poet. So
Wow, wow.
the interactions that come when writing, like we think that it's like a woman is writing and it's a woman's perspective, but how it's often a collaborative process. It's probably the book became what it is because it was perhaps a collaborative process also, right? So we cannot say, I feel that feminist literature is feminist per se, because a lot of perspectives come into it, and we cannot isolate it because men are as much part of feminist literature. Because Rabindranath Tagore, what he wrote about women, the way he understood women, I think very few authors in history, in world history, could do that. So it's men, women, both have written wonderful stories of women, on women, that have brought our literature, that have brought progress in our literature, that has brought progress in storytelling about women, I feel.
Very nice. Very true.
True. In fact, yes, that is in fact a very important point you bring about, Amrita, that in fact, the purpose of feminism is defeated if only women were to defend and propagate
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
So, absolutely, the role of male authors in putting out a feminist perspective is much. And as you said, a female author writing and not letting only the perspective of a feminist, color her writing is also very important. So what you say
Yes.
is absolutely, absolutely. So over to you, Anita. Your viewpoint.
Thank you, Khushbu. And since Tripti took us to mythology and Amrita took us to Arabian Nights, I'll move a little more to the West and talk about the Western view of women. And women have been portrayed as per their role in society at that particular time. That is how it has happened. Like if you think of the Shakespearean time when he wrote Taming of the Shrew, so at that time, society believed that a woman had to be subjugated. She had to be under the control of a man. So that is how he
Very
portrayed it.
nice.
Then, if you move on to, say, Jane Austen, Emma, Pride and Prejudice, in those days, the entire idea was that a woman has to get married. That was the
Exactly.
be all of her life, like her only ambition. Even if, in fact, if you've seen this movie recently, Mona Lisa Smile, the school, all the girls there are just getting ready for getting married.
Marriage.
That is their ultimate aim in life. So, all writers, whether they were men or they were women, they portrayed women the way society was looking at them at that point of time. If we come back to Indian literature, if we talk of Kamla Markandeya, she's written this beautiful novel, Nectar in a Sea. And the way women are exploited, first as a family by the moneylenders, and then just because the woman cannot have a child, the man can just throw her out of his house. And a girl like Ira, she can even trade herself to feed her children. So women have been portrayed the way society wants to look at them and the way society has treated them at that point of time. So, what I'll not say any particular novel has influenced me, but I do realize that if I am putting pen to paper, I also need to root my feminine characters in the society of today. So, that is what I take from all these writers of previous times.
Yeah, that is a very different perspective and a very practical one too. So, okay, now moving to today's literary landscape. Do you think this feminist literature is like, I clearly see Anita definitely has made a point that it is also evolving because now since the society is evolving and literature mirrors the society, and hopefully it also shapes the society by being slightly ahead of it and probably helping it evolve. Do you think today's literature is helping, is moving towards a more progressive approach? Or could you share examples of any recent books or poems you might have come across which are redefining the women's narrative? Yeah, Anita can start and we can go down.
Okay, so like Khushbu, you had started the session with a very nice quote from Dr. Maya Angelou, and that poem is very famous, Still I Rise. So I
Yes.
personally like those narratives which show women as strong protagonists rather than focusing on the pathos and the fact that they're exploited or they're unhappy, or focusing on the the sad aspect of how they're being treated by society. Any opinion which shows women as a much stronger person is what I prefer. So, like Maya Angelou has also written "Phenomenal Woman," that I am, whatever I am, whatever my size, my physique, whatever, I am a phenomenal woman. There's another very nice poem I read online by Nikita Gill, and the poem was titled Fire. And what she's trying to say through that poem is that if anyone ever undervalues you, then bring out the monster in you and show those people what hell looks like, even if it is garbed in a gentle human form. So that is the kind of literature which I personally am more inclined towards. And if you don't mind, on the same vein, can I share just 4 lines which I had penned at one time? about the kind of women characters. And I'm bilingual, so this is in Hindi. And I had titled it Karun Yudh. So it's a long poem, but I'll just tell you 8 lines. So that will give you an idea of what I expect when we portray women. So it goes like this. तुम हाथ में लिए दिए क्या चले संवारने, ये वो तिमिर है नहीं जो हरण हो गुहार से. Meaning that just by lighting candles, you're not going to achieve anything, because this darkness is so intense that it cannot be dispelled just by asking for justice or by asking for equality. This was a poem which I wrote when that Abhaya case had happened in Calcutta. I was very disturbed by that. So I thought, this is not going to work. We have to do something much stronger. तुम शक्ति हो, समर्थ हो, तुम ही नया आगाज हो, शंखनाद से आज तुम कर्ण युद्ध आरंभ करो. So you are strength, you are power, and you need to now blow the conch shell of the battle, showing that you are the one who can actually take action. So just words are not enough, you need to act. So that is what I believe is how we need to project women if we want to make a difference.
Very true. Very true. Since we are speaking about Abhaya, and since we have a very powerful woman here who speaks both about doctors and about women, Tripti, you go ahead.
Well, she kind of, reminded me of Abhaya. But before that, since you were asking me the recent literature that I read, the one I read recently, I was telling in my earlier, when I was answering, that was Volga. And I was impressed. And I was impressed more so because, her thought, I could relate to it. And her thought process were so very, similar to what I was thinking, that I have become a huge fan of her. Somehow, somewhere along the line, I could know what she's talking. So what really impressed me, the way I'm coming back again to Sita, not because of, the goddess Sita, but like she said that, in the end, we all read that she rejected Ram and then she dies, she goes back to her mother earth. So what I interpreted from that was, did she actually say no to Ram? So no, she did not die. Rather, she saved herself from the cycle of abandonment. She was a daughter of earth. She was the daughter of nature. Nature was always fair. It is culture that discriminates. So she cut the roots of culture. And, she liberated herself. So that was something so beautiful about it that, I every day I try to find something which is written by her and I go back and read. Because, I believe there are 3 kinds of women. One who are suffering, they know they are suffering and they struggle to free themselves. The other is who are suffering, but they do not know how to get out of it. And there's a 3rd category of women who are suffering, but they don't even know that they are suffering. And I believe this category which is most injurious to themselves. Isn't it? So, and coming back to, I'll take the liberty of just reading out from my Abhaya. I was, my recent book which I wrote was this Raasleela. So it is kind of like imagining Radha in this world. If she's living in this world, she must somewhere, as we say that Radha is an endless waiting for Krishna. So she must be here living in this world, probably taking up new roles, new challenges, still talking to her eternal Krishna. So there was this line, and this is just one, just 1 or 2 lines. I won't take much time. It is like, across millennia, in all the births we took, I can see you always leaving me midway. For a greater cause or on the path of dharma. Maybe you always wanted me to be this independent woman standing on my own, taking charge, commanding, controlling my life. I am. But in all my lives, you didn't make me immune to becoming a Nirbhaya or Abhaya, Krishna. So there are so many, similar poetries which, I did pen. These are just notes to Krishna. You can take it as a woman, my monologues with Krishna, or just reimagining Radha somewhere there talking to Krishna. She must be thinking about this universe which has evolved sometimes for good and sometimes for not. So that's it. Thank you.
Kajal Kajal is extremely impressed. She says how beautiful, Tripti, and true it is. So, Amrita, which was the recent most book which you read, which made you feel, yes, we are making headway somewhere?
Yeah. Number of books, but one author who's already here, I can see her book really touched me, and I got in touch with her after reading the book, and we had a conversation over Facebook Messenger, I think, because I was so impressed. It is, of course, Natasha Sharma's Beneath Divided Skies. And as you're
Yes.
talking about you're talking about suffering of women, and how they rise above it. I think Natasha's book has done a fantastic job, and it's not only about one woman. She's shown so many women in the narrative with their own issues, and how they try their best to rise above their circumstances, most importantly. And it's a fabulous book, and very different perspective on the partition. So one of my latest books which I like very much is this. Another book I read recently, which I'm like raving about, and my son keeps on saying that you talk about Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Gumers. Have
Swami
any of
Gandhi.
Yes, it's
Yes.
such a. I am late in reading that book because it got published quite a few years back. A friend gifted it to me. What a brilliant book! And how feminism, how a woman's perspective is looked at. And the book is based in 1950. But it's so relevant even today. Like, I was reading and thinking that, all working women, we still go through these problems in our life. And two other books which I really like recently by our authors, of course, Monica Singh's the
Pronounced
book,
guilty.
uh, proven. Give me the name once
Pronounced
again.
guilty.
Pronounced
Pronounced
Guilty.
guilty.
Yes, she also has very interesting woman characters, although it's not about women only, but a very different perspective on women and how they can influence the life of men. I think it's a wonderful book. And these are some of the recent women writers I've been reading. Another book I'm liking it very much, is Strong Women by Ida Jo. I think her name is Pajunen. It's on the first stunt woman of India who used to take elephants on her chest.
Oh,
All these books gives
Wow.
us such fabulous perspectives of how women before us have fought for us, so that we can have a better life, and we can write, we can thrive. And these books really, like, you keep on thinking, you want to talk about these books, you want to write about these books, and these books stay with you. So I would say these women are doing a fabulous job.
absolutely. This book sounds very interesting. I must check it out too. This
Yes,
is
yes, you
such an
must.
interesting book. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. This sounds extremely. Maybe that will be my read on the occasion of Women's Day. I must pick this up.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. So now we've spoken about the classics, we've spoken about contemporary literature. Tell us, to a certain extent, Tripti has told us what she does in her own work. Amrita and you people tell me. So, how do you try to portray the real struggles of women, today's women, in your literature? How do you bring realism in your own writing? How do you do that? And how do you, it goes both ways, I believe. How do you bring realism in your own writing, and how do you make your writing such that women would be able to relate and probably use the strength for their own struggles? So, how do you also break stereotypes through your own writing? How do you try to? So, yes, Amrita can go first.
That is breaking stereotypes. That is my forte. I love challenging stereotypes. Like, I hate stereotypes. But then you can't help but live a life of stereotype also, because suppose yesterday I was thinking that I talk about so many things, I'm doing this, doing that, but my cook didn't turn up, and I was cooking and I was editing, and I was doing this and doing that. So it's like the women's life hasn't changed much, although we have been challenging perceptions. But the best part I feel right now is, as I was saying, the men in our life, we are very fortunate to have men who understand, men who are supportive, men who understand that we want to be something much more than just be relegated to our household work. So that has been a blessing, I think. And challenging perceptions, all my books have been that. My first book, Exit Interview, about the life of a journalist, I have challenged perceptions. My second book, A Museum of Memories, which are short stories, but all very, recently a friend of mine, she was reading it. She's a filmmaker, and she was telling me that the perspectives you have brought to the stories are very different, but you can identify with those. And that is what I like. We as authors, we have that, all of us. We can constantly keep observing people, and small nuggets we can pick up and weave it into our stories. And that's a lot of satisfaction, because we are writing about life all the time. And that's the thing. And my last one, as you know, is a non-fiction. So it is not so much about women, it's more about crime, actually. But obviously, I cannot write anything without looking at society or the social perspective. So I cannot just write about crime or anything like that. So I think that's another woman thing. Women bring out.
Yes.
That's like your book, 𝗧𝗿𝗶𝗽𝗁. It's a very different kind of perspective. But the characters you have created, and the way you have, what will I say, the layers of the characters, I think it's a very women can do that. Women look into the basic details, and what I really like about it, there's so much humor in the book, but despite that, you make such a strong point. So that's also something that it comes from within us. We have to make a point in the end. So any woman writer you see from, say, our Ashapurna Devi, or if you are looking at Margaret Atwood, one of my favorite writers, such powerful writer. So they ultimately make that point, make it clear that we want to stand up for our rights. So that's the thing.
True.
That's about
True.
it.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I believe women writing humor should be in the category of breaking stereotypes. Totally. It should be included in the category of stereotypes. Because for some reason, we seem to associate a sense of humor, a sense of dry humor with males. It often happens when we speak.
Exactly.
So I think, yes, maybe have more women who think like you. And yes. So, yes, Anita, up to you now.
Okay, so Khushbu, I have to confess that I have never made a conscious, I'm actually very recent into writing, and I have not made a conscious effort to bring in feminism or to portray women in a particular light. But once I came to know we are going to be on this platform and be discussing feminism and the roles of women and how it's changing, I kept thinking. So what I can probably share with you is something from my first novel, Home Run. And in that, I had a number of characters, and quite a few of them were women. And there is one woman whose name is Amira, and she is a 50-plus woman who's very happy with her family, and she, has lulled herself into that comfort zone where she thinks she's the axis of her family's life. And something happens, and she realizes that no, they can all carry on without me. I'm not the one who's, all important for everybody. And then she decides to move away and find her own calling. So I suppose that could fall into the category of being a woman who's breaking a stereotype. Then again, in that same novel,
Absolutely.
I have a mother-in-law, daughter-in-law duo. Now, normally in Indian society, what happens is that the mother-in-law is the big bad devil, and she and the daughter-in-law always at loggerheads with each other. But the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, which I have portrayed, are the best of friends, and they share everything, and they're very close and they're very intimate. So, I suppose if somebody reads that, maybe subconsciously they would be able to realize that women don't need to have to be the way society portrays them. There
Anita,
are
I
different.
totally agree with you, because this kind of relationship also exists, and we have seen that, but we don't talk about it. We need to
Don't
talk
talk.
about these relationships also, right?
Yes.
That these wonderful relationships, right?
And
Yeah.
True,
then
and
there's another.
in fact, yes, it is about not always playing up the victim card. It is often about
Right.
showing what are the good aspects of the society, because it is only when we are, if we were to appreciate what is good, there is a greater chance of it advancing in that direction. So yes, absolutely.
Right.
And
So
there's
your
one more
writing absolutely falls under the same category of breaking stereotypes, Anita.
there's one
Consciously or not,
there's,
it does fall into.
there's one more character in that book, and she's a young girl and she falls in love, and the person she's in love with, he is not very close to his family. So usually they say that it is the woman who drives a wedge between a man and his family, but here it is this woman who actually helps him to see things from a different perspective and reunite with his family. So I think that is the only difference which I've tried to create, directly or indirectly.
So I love this discussion with this panel, because it is every single topic gets a very well-rounded answer. So I am absolutely loving this kind of discussion. And while I ask my next question, I thought I will put up one question for the audience, because then they will need time to answer. And one of them gets to, the one who's just the best gets to win a prize. So this is for the audience. Please share a book or a poem which is written by a woman which has deeply resonated with you, and explain how it influenced your thoughts on gender, society, biases, personal growth, whatever. Put it up in the comments, and we have a dedicated person who is going to read all of this, and then there are a lot of people over here who are going to judge you. So yes, please go ahead. Now, while we get those answers, let us go to the next question. So,
To ask me that
okay,
question.
now this is, yes.
I think I need to answer that
There
question.
is, yes, there is Rajani's question. Yes, absolutely. Also because it is related with mythology and we were speaking about it. So Rajani Gangadharan asked, have the struggles of women characters from mythology molded the women of today to become much more stronger and powerful? Yes, so
Am I the
Tripti can
first
go
answer?
first. Yes,
So before I answer this question, I do want to answer the previous question also, which you did ask
absolutely.
about.
Yes.
I was waiting for that. So you asked me that how you break stereotypes. So I've always been fighting a lot for women and doctors both. I always believe that both of them suffer a lot of stereotypes. Like there is a way you are expected to dress up. There's a way you are expected to behave. There's a way you have to carry yourself. Society sets around a lot of standards around you. And you would agree, since you're yourself a doctor, like even the medical world has a lot of sexism. It is not outside it. And being a gynecologist, I always wanted to work with women, never ever. So I did not take any other subject, because for me that was automatically a choice. I mean, I never had a choice, I had to be there. So as I met women, you see so many stories, and they're not always tragic one, not always sad ones. You see some women who are the perpetrators, then you see their in-laws who are the ones who are victimizing her. So it was all bottled down inside, and that is how I chose to write my first book, which was Chronicles of a Gynecologist. It's a collection of stories, and it ranges from lot many things, from rape victims, unmarried, pregnant widows who go for unsafe abortions, and then to a brave woman who has been got an arrow pierced because the tribals, they thought she was a witch. And this pregnant woman, she travels, how she saves herself. So, and then all about the recent times, how, people are kind of, having a planned pregnancy, and planned deliveries, going for Mahura deliveries, and how the social scenario is changing. How people are not only crying when the baby is born, girl child is born. I've seen infanticide also, about a mother and her
Tripti, this book is
grandmother.
there on Amazon. Tripti,
Yeah,
your
it
book
is
is there
there.
on Amazon.
Yeah,
Can you
all
give me
of
the
them
name
are.
of the book once again? I
It
would
is
love to read it.
Chronicles of a gynecologist. It's the
Great.
first book that made me an author, and
Great.
I had some feminists who read this and they said it was gut wrenching. But it has a
Absolutely.
lot of humor also. The second one was also House of Doctors.
I've read
So
that.
I
Yes.
really, that is also anecdotal, and I had a third one with Readomania, Anecdotes and Antidotes. They're all books which have all classes. As doctors we see tragedy, comedy, humor, satire, sarcasm, everything. So it was full of them. And somewhere along the line, I also learned that, in your writings, I mean, when you're writing, say, actually real life stories, as writers, we are very ignited souls. So we are smart enough to tell, and even an ugly truth very beautifully, and a lie also very honestly, beautiful or ugly. And I was told by my first editor of Chronicles that never, give your own opinion. Just put the facts. Let
Facts.
the readers interpret it. Earlier I had this habit now about, giving my own judgment. Like this and this happened. So, this woman behaved like this. So he said that, take these out. You have to give the, readers the liberty of interpreting it, and
Judging
that
for
is how they
themselves.
learn from
Yes.
it. That is how they learn from. Let your characters teach them rather than you teaching them. There's a
Right.
difference, and I learned this thing that when you are in a public space, be it as a speaker, be it as a writer, never be stereotyped in your opinion. Always just say the facts and let them take their own, in a way
Right.
that they get the message. So that is a very good thing which I learned as an author, and it has helped me at all platforms that I speak, either even as a professional, an academician, or as an author. So coming to this question, has the struggle of female characters from mythology molded the women of today to become much more stronger and powerful? Yes, I absolutely believe that. Even though I write this in my books that our present is scarred from the wounds of past. But why do we prefer a male child? Of course, it has come from our history, from our past. But somewhere along the line, it's the same characters which have taught us. We're all here, we're all inspired by these characters. We understand that their challenges might have been different, because what was dharma of past may not hold true now. So we have to take their challenges as per the modern context. We have to, kind of fight them. You don't have to again go back to earth. You have to fight that because you have to live in this world. So yes, it has made us stronger, but it has also given us it has told us that you can be Kali also, isn't it? So we have learned these things. It has made us more powerful, and it is on to you how you draw inspiration from them and how you kind of face them. So I think we, modern women of today, is more powerful to take up these adversities. And one thing is that we don't have to depend on men for that. You have to depend on yourself, which is one thing which is very much different from that. Earlier, they would pray for the long life of their husband, their brother, their fathers. They needed a male presence around. Yes, we need them. We of course need them, but not. We don't need anyone as much as we need ourselves. It is we who have to be strong, and we who have to come out, and we who is ultimately going to save ourselves.
Absolutely. That is a good point you make. That is what Anamika Kundu also says, that, and Monica Singh also says that yes, that is a very strong point that you make. Now,
Yeah,
Amrita,
and we need
this
a
is a
lot of
question.
women support also. This women bonding, like everywhere there's a
Yes,
brochure. We must have a women bonding. Women, kind of they need to draw inspiration and strength from each other.
absolutely. Sisterhood is the need of
Yes.
that. Absolutely. Most certainly. So, Amrita, this question is first for you. So, do you think literature about women can directly influence policies or social norms or laws? I think you're best suited out of all of the ones in panel to answer
Uh,
this one. And you
actually,
can share examples if you want. Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to talk about two books which I feel that they have. I don't know how much we talk about these two books, but these have actually went on to influence literature that had a direct influence on society. The first book is called Silent Spring. It's by Rachel Carson. It was written in 1960s, and spoke about, she was a scientist, and she spoke about the that was when in the US they started spraying pesticides and using DDT for crops and things like that. And she spoke about it, she wrote about it, and the book became an instant hit. It became a bestseller, but she had to face a lot of flack from all these industrial organizations that were manufacturing the pesticides. But because of her book, a lot of laws were also passed. Although that struggle is still on, the pesticides and farming and organic farming. But she was the first person in history, not only as a human being, not only a woman, but first person who brought to the fore the negative aspects of pesticides and DDT. So instantly, her work had an impact. But it's not only on the scientific community, as I would say, because she got readers from all walks of life. So, like some 1 million copies of her book were sold. So this is one book.
Wow.
And another book that I wanted to talk about is The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan. So it was written in 1963. It was written during the second wave of the feminist movement, when women were challenging the housewife tag, and they were coming out to work, and they were asking for equal pay. And after this book, the first legislation of equal pay happened.
Wow.
So, yes. So these are the two books which I know about, had instant impact on laws, on society. And of course, we have other writers also, like I feel, who've had a huge impact on society, but as instant legislation. If we look at this, because we don't really know, like say one Bengali writer, Ashapurna Devi, like her work is said to have had a huge impact on Bengali women, and the progressive mindset that women gradually had. She started writing at the age of 12. She never went to school, and she got married
Wow.
very early. Yes, early. But her work is phenomenal. A lot of translations are available also. If you read it, you'll see like the kind of the way she was ahead of her times. And if you read her, you think it made Bengali women think and come out of their cocoon, from their shackles, I would say. So these are the writers, and there are a lot of women writers who have had a huge impact. But right now, these names came to my mind.
Absolutely. So, as you say, it is also the literature which would have influenced the minds somewhere during the making of these policymakers. So that also counts. Absolutely. Yes, Anita, over to you. Yes.
Okay, so literature obviously has a major role to play as far as creating impact is concerned. Like, if you don't just talk about books, think about our own independence struggle. It was only when the press was established in India, and information percolated to every corner of the country about how we were being exploited, that a mass movement could be created. So, literature in any form, whether it is articles or journals or books, will initiate the impact always. Like if you look at the Indian society, we had a lady named 𝗧𝗿𝗵𝗵𝗿. She wrote a
Yes.
number of articles
Oh,
for
yes, yes, yes.
yeah,
Absolutely.
women's education, and she also wrote she was championing the cause for education of the people who were considered as social outcasts. But she did not end at just writing. She actually opened schools, and along with her husband, see, men are also important. They support the women.
Absolutely.
So, along with her husband, she opened the school. She faced a lot of flack. People would throw dung at her when she would be going towards the school. But she overcame all that and she got a lot of support from the British government. And she could make a statement that yes, girls need to be educated. People who are considered from lower castes also are equals. They also need to be educated. So, literature in any form will definitely have a major, major impact on society.
Yes.
That is
So
my
for
opinion.
Tripti, that is an absolutely well-rounded summary of what we all would have wanted to say for this question. So yes, for Tripti, I have a slight variation in the question. Okay. So for you, my question is, and I'm talking about women and doctors because we brought up Abhaya specifically for this. Through your, and I often see you writing about it as well. So through your writing, what kind of changes in policy do you want to bring
Pardon?
specifically for this cause?
Pardon?
Specifically for the cause of specifically for the cause of
Mhm.
women and doctors, both of which you are passionate about and you often write about. What kind of changes in policy do you want your writing to bring about?
Well, I always say that we talk about women's safety, but safety is not only about safety from gender violence. Safety, as a doctor, when I say safety, I mean safe sex, I mean safe motherhood, I mean safe abortion. These three things, as a doctor, you would relate, they are the things that are causing maximum maternal deaths in our country. So I think every woman, right from the age of adolescence, and for that I do go to so many colleges and school, and I teach them about sex and sexuality. I give them sexuality education because this is something that we don't talk about. I mean, this is a little different aspect. So I write about that. I'm writing a lot of newsletters on that. Writing even in my books, there's a chapter on teenage pregnancy because you won't believe India has the largest cases of teenage pregnancy, and there's so many problems that menopausal women suffer from, and they're not all medical, many a times they are social also. So as a doctor, I would want to bring about a change so that our women are healthier, because only a healthy woman is empowered enough to take any kind of challenge. And it is also to bring an awareness. So many times there are things that can easily be solved at home. You don't even need to go to a doctor, but then you go on suffering endlessly thinking that it's a norm, it's a part of life, this will happen. Now we are destined to suffer. So things change, there are a lot of changes in medicine. So if you ask me, as a writer, yes, I write stories about this woman to bring about a change so that people read about it, they understand. And as a doctor, it is, I think it's our social responsibility, which by default is on to us, that we have to educate them. There's very little health education otherwise from any other source. So our books should be such that they teach women what is right, what is wrong. Because for others, there are so many other people also writing about it. But we have to start it, and we have to start it right from the beginning, from the school going children, because this is the formative year when they are going to, understand responsible behavior. Sometimes back, I wrote something about consent. What is consent, especially in relation to sex? What is consent? Children need to understand what is responsible behavior. And this education has to go, it has to go into the reproductive age group, where you tell them that women have reproductive rights. They have to, they can say no to a partner who does not practice contraception. So many men think that, women do not have reproductive rights, and having an abortion is just, another method of contraception. This is where they are wrong. They have to safeguard themselves from pregnancy, from, sexually transmitted infections. So I'm sorry, the gynecologist in me has overcome myself. So that, and then as they grow older, the problems don't end. A woman will need a gynecologist at any age, a doctor at any age. As you grow into menopause, it will be, everything would be blamed on your menopause. It is not the end. You cannot allow your estrogens to take over. Sometimes back in one of our sessions, there was somebody who said, now we have drugs which will make a woman feminine forever. So I question that a woman, when she does not have a periods, or when she stops having periods, does she stop being feminine? I mean, that is a totally different aspect, isn't it? So it's easy for men to say that, now she has no estrogens, but then they don't make, your grandmother is also feminine, your 10-year-old daughter would be feminine. So femininity has got nothing to do with your estrogens. if you know what I mean. So I believe our writing should bring about a change. So ultimately, we all want women to not only be happy, but to be healthy and empowered. And that's another way of looking at it.
That is a very unique thing which you said. In fact, if we had to give one caption to this episode, it would be "We are more than our estrogens."
Yeah, in 2000 when these drugs came, menopausal hormonal therapy, they came with a caption "Feminine Forever." I don't understand
God.
this.
Yes.
Why should it be feminine for? We never question men whether they are men forever. Do we ever say that? So I actually don't understand that. And I've seen doctors also saying that. So that is something that goes above me.
Absolutely. This has been a very enriching session. I see Sonal Singh has said, yes, we tend to, shove sexuality and the need for, and sexual needs shove under the carpet and hide it behind a prudish wall of the society. So that does more harm. So yes, we have a lot of readers who are commenting on this. And while we are at the fag end of this session, and we might need to conclude it, I urge all of you panelists to go back to the comments and please give your replies to the ones which are addressed to you or are addressed in general. And the audiences, yes, please still type in all your answers and let us see who wins the prize. So I think we can conclude our session. It has been a phenomenally enlightening session. We've spoken about so many topics which I had not even thought would be figured on this session about feminism. We spoke about so many things which generally what happens is all these talks that come up just right at the time of, on the occasion of Women's Day, they generally follow a fixed template. And somewhere you start feeling, okay, this is, we just don't need to talk about it for this one day, and we must talk about it all the time. And then there are these topics, such stimulating topics which come up, topics which make you feel, I want to go back and read about it. I want to discuss this so much more. I think we must have done something right. So thank you to all my panelists. You have been wonderful. You have given such wonderful insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you, 𝗂𝗑𝗫. You have been wonderful too. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, and thank you to all the audience for such fantastic participation. You people have been lovely as well.
Thank you.
Can you